Hello, everyone. Welcome to William and the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Papa Bear. Papa Bear is from Toronto, in Canada. So let's see what Papa Bear has to say. Enjoy the interview. Hello, Papa Bear. How are you?
Well, thank you, William. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thanks so much for taking the time today for the interview. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I like your outfit, your t-shirt. Tell me a little bit about it.
It's a T-shirt that's meant to look like the suit of the superhero The Flash.
Oh, wow. Amazing. So tell me, how's your day going so far?
My day is good. It is a Saturday after a very busy week in my professional life, and so I'm glad to be able to take a minute to change gears and do something different with you today.
Amazing. So tell me what has been the highlights of your week?
That's an excellent question. There have been quite a few. I work mainly as a life coach, and I work principally with people who are grieving. And so I have two clients that I saw yesterday who went through some very powerful realizations
Okay.
in their grief, and it was actually a really beautiful story on both sides to hear. A real privilege.
So as you already touched about your career, Papa Bear, tell me a little bit about your journey so far as a life coach, how things got together.
Sure. In 2018, my husband died very suddenly, unexpectedly. And 3 years later, in 2021, our son committed suicide. And shortly thereafter, I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I started on a journey that was at times, as you might imagine, extremely difficult. But there came a point, maybe about a year ago, when I looked myself in the mirror and thought, hey, as difficult as this journey has been, it has forced me to change and to grow in positive ways. And I started putting my story out there online, and started to get reactions from people saying, hey, you know what, I saw an interview that you did, or I heard you tell this story, and it was really helpful for me. And at that point, I realized that maybe my experiences would be helpful for other people.
Mhm.
And at that point, I trained as a life coach and started working with clients. And now I have a clientele of about 15 to 20 people that I see on a regular basis.
Wow.
They are not exclusively, but mostly people who have dealt with trauma or grief. They've had somebody pass away relatively recently in their lives. And so they are finding their way forward. And one of my clients said to me, you know, you're not a life coach, given what you do. And I said, I'm not. He said, no, you're an afterlife coach. And so the name has stuck. And that's what I go by. I have a small presence on YouTube where I do interviews with people who talk about their stories. And we've just kind of expanded now into another series of videos where I invite a panel of people in to talk about big issues that overlapped with the LGBTQ community. So the first panel was dealing with a group of men who are all sex workers in some form and who are all Black. And so we looked at the intersection of, you know, gay sexuality and race, and how that plays out for them.
Wow. Thanks for sharing, Papa Bear, this event in your life. I think, just who go through it can understand and can help other people as well, because there are events that you're not expecting. There are events that is going to leave a mark in our lives, and change our lives, and for you to be able to, let's say, not turn around, but for you to take that and help others with those experiences. I think it's a beautiful thing for you to be, helping other people as well. I think it's great. It's not easy for sure, because, it's always going to be there for you. However, strong, and you are doing your journey, helping other people. That's amazing. Very
It's
inspired.
absolutely true. This week was the anniversary of my son's passing. And on that day, I happened to work with two clients who are relatively new in their grief. And it was interesting because I was able to compare what they're going through with what I'm going through. And I don't
Mhm.
always think of myself as having healed a lot. And yet, by comparison, I could see that I was not in as acute a situation as they are. And
Sure.
so help other people, sure, but also kind of selfishly, doing the work that I do is also healing for me.
I was about to say that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a healing journey for sure. For sure.
absolutely it is.
Papa Bear, tell me, where are you from?
I currently live in Toronto. I've been here for about 30 years, off and on, but I have lived a bunch of different places in my life. I have lived in Germany twice. I've lived in Quebec in Canada, which might as well be another country in some ways. I lived in Brazil for a while, and Spain also.
Wow. And why the experience those countries? Why is that? Just career or?
Sometimes it was professional. Sometimes it was much when I was much younger. So Brazil was a sort of student exchange. Germany, the first time, was a student exchange.
Mhm.
Quebec was initially a student exchange and then to go to school. Germany, the second time, was for work. Spain was for work.
I see. And you're originally from Canada, from
That's
Toronto.
right. I grew up very close to Toronto in the Niagara region, so very close to Niagara Falls.
Actually, I go to Canada every year. My godson, my best friend, he lives in Montreal.
Okay.
And so the first time I went to Canada, actually, I went to Toronto for a few days, and Niagara Falls, of course, I couldn't miss it. So it was an experience to remember for sure.
Very nice.
Papa Bear, before we start our journey within the Magic Box, I would like you to tell me something interesting about yourself, or maybe something that not many people know about you.
So I usually describe myself by saying that I'm gay, polyamorous, kinky, I'm a digital artist, a widower, a grieving father, PTSD survivor, and life coach. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Wow, amazing. That's a lot there, a lot in your plate. Papa Bear, are you ready to go on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and share your point
Only
of
with
view?
you.
Oh, sweet. Welcome to William and the Magic Box.
Absolutely.
So I have here my best friend. Full of random fun questions. I'm just gonna play a song just for us to relax before the first question, okay?
I'm with you.
Let's do it. Right, so before I start the game, during the join, if it comes up a question that you don't want to answer, don't want to talk about, always can change, okay?
Mhm.
First question for you is, what is your funniest memory of a date that you had?
Oh, gosh. I don't know about funny, but
Let's say interesting or maybe memorable.
yeah, for sure. For a while, I was dating a man who lived in Israel, and he lived very close to the port of Caesarea, which, if you know your Bible, that's where Pontius Pilate was. That's where his palace was in Caesarea. It's a Roman town, but it's also, I didn't realize this, there's still a quay that juts out into the sea that was built by the Romans. But if you dig a little below that, you find the Greeks from Alexander the Great. Afterwards, along came the Ottomans, and everybody else. Every other empire has rolled in at some point and built something, and it's all right there, pretty much in his backyard. And so we were walking along by the sea, holding our hand, and going out for dinner, and surrounded by all of this, 2,000 plus years of history.
Wow. Tell me something regarding relationship. I believe you are in a polyamorous relationship right now, yeah?
Yeah, I usually tell people that what I have is a circle of love. There's a group of men around me with whom I have loving and family-like relationships.
So tell me, what's the biggest joy of having, those lovers, those people that you love around you, and what do you find most challenging about that?
What's most joyful is the diversity and the opportunity to learn. The men are all very different. They're all very different from me. We have similar experiences, but our lives are different enough in fundamental ways that I get to see a way of looking at the world that is not mine, and I get to understand that in a profound way. And so that's probably the most beautiful thing. The most difficult thing always is communication. If it takes a lot of communication to make a relationship between two people work, it takes even more when you add more people to it. And so it's something that you always have to be mindful of.
I see. Okay. Next question. Let's do it. Okay, next question is, what's the best and the worst of being yourself?
The worst thing was just the experiences that I described. They were extremely challenging to the point where, I thought at one point they were going to break me. The best thing, though, is realizing that you get to step into being your full and authentic self if you allow yourself to. And there is a joy and a pleasure that comes from being able to show up everywhere in all parts of your life as all of you, not having to hide anything anymore.
Well, tell me something, Papa Bear. How was for you growing up back, in Toronto? Did you have this as a gay boy, I believe? Was it a challenge? Did you have the support of your family? Tell me a little bit about your journey.
My childhood was fairly, I have to say, break out the violins here, but a little bit traumatic. I grew up not in Toronto, but in a very small town where people had small minds. And at a point in time when there was not a lot of understanding for diversity and sexuality. And so it was not fun. I was glad to leave and to experience other things.
And your family still back in that town where you grew up or not?
My parents are no longer with us. I have siblings who are in various places, but no, we've all left. We've all left the town where we were.
I see. Okay. Next question. Let's do it. Next question is, what's your favorite TV show?
That's one I have to scratch my head about. I don't watch a lot of TV. One series that I did enjoy a bit was The Wheel of Time, right, which showed on Amazon and was based on a series of books. And one of the main characters is this older woman who's very schooled. She's powerful in the use of sorcery. Her name is Moiraine Sedai, and she just has this she's not a big talker, but when she says something, it's very powerful. And when you need her, she's there to kick butt. So I appreciated that a lot.
You're kind of person that prefer to watch like movies at home, or do you prefer to go to the cinema? How does it work for you? Do you like movies?
I do. Do people watch movies in cinemas anymore? I don't know. In a post-pandemic world, it's not something I hear about other people doing, and it's not something I find myself doing. But I definitely remember the experience of waiting, at holiday season, whether that be, Christmas, New Year, or the summertime, for the big blockbuster movies to come out. And it was fun to go into a cinema with a couple of friends and make it a big experience.
I love cinema, Papa Bear. I go every weekend. It's my therapy of the week. It's going to the movies in the weekends. And I understand your point. No, sorry?
I was going to say, what sort of movies do you like?
My God, I'm so like open-minded about movies. I love the Marvels. I love the superheroes. I love drama. I love, action. The one that I don't go much for is that horror movies, not because I think it's just because I cannot relax. You know what I mean? I find I just can, the silence and suddenly something happened. So those moments for me, I'm always like scared, or, I close my eyes and I cannot relax properly. However, I can watch them. It's not a big deal. But I have a tendency for drama for some reason. Those there's some.
You personally, or in the movie theater?
I think because I'm Brazilian, Brazil, we have this Latin blood, full of drama, the soap operas. So I think maybe because of that. But I have this tendency I love real stories as well, based in true stories. I think a lot. So I'm a big movie, so I just love going to the cinema.
Sounds awesome.
Ready for another question?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Next one. Right, before the next question, as you mentioned at the beginning of the interview about your career as a life coach, about helping people, helping their journey as well to get to a better place and understand more about events in life. But the opposite, what do you find most challenging about your career?
Every once in a while, I've had a client who really wants to talk, but they can't allow themselves to. and they will occasionally become very combative.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my role to ask questions, not because I think I'm smarter than people or not because I think I have the answers. As a matter of fact, the method that I use is based on the assumption that I don't know the answers, that I don't have the solutions. It's allowing the other person to open up in such a way that they find their own solutions, they find their own answers, they find it within themselves. And so it is a little bit frustrating when somebody's so locked up and so angry that they start wanting to have an adversarial relationship with you. That is hard.
Most of your clients or your patients, are they part of the LGBTQ plus community, or they are, from other communities?
I have had a couple of cisgendered, straight identifying men and women, but mostly I would say my clientele is LGBTQ people.
Okay. Next question is, tell us about your earliest memory in life.
I was probably 3, I think, and I remember it was the summertime, walking out the back door of our house, stepping onto a cement veranda and finding it very hot, walking into the backyard. I was in a bathing suit, I remember, and setting foot into a little kiddie pool, a little inflatable plastic pool full of water. And I think there began my fascination with Speedos and water and the summertime.
And through your life, which person in your family you are more close to or more connected with?
The man that I was dating who lived, he's no longer in Israel, he's now in London, who I consider to be a son. There's a difference in age, and when we talk regularly, and he is somebody who I can get a half a sentence out of my mouth and not particularly frame or explain an idea very well, and he's already understood. Wow. And is able to ask me 2 or 3 questions that are really sort of probing and insightful. I really appreciate that about him. He's a beautiful person.
Wow. Okay, so let's see that he's watched this interview right now, and you have a opportunity to send him a message. What would you say?
I love you. I love you. I appreciate you. Along with all the other men in the circle, I feel very privileged that I get to be a part of this group.
Oh, sweet. Next question. Let's do it. Next question for you is, what does success mean to you?
It's meant different things over the course of my life. Initially, there were big sort of achievements in education and career, and those were very important to me. I felt very satisfied when I accomplished those things. But after my husband died, I realized that the most important thing in life is our connections with others. And so one of the good things that's come out of my experience is I tend not to sweat the small things. Like there's a little bit of drama going on in one of the areas that I work in, and other people that I work with there are very bothered by it. And while it's a problem that I'm trying to solve, I realize that, when I get to my deathbed and I think about the regrets I have in life, sending more emails, I'm not going to sit there and go, I wish I'd answered that final email. I'm going to be saying, I wish I had more time with the people that I cared about. Yeah.
Are you okay to talk about your husband who passed away?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So 2 questions. Awesome. So 2 questions in one. The first part of the question is, how did your path cross? And the second part of the question is, when you think about him, what's the best memory that comes to your mind? And I've got goosebumps everywhere now, just saying that. It's so powerful. My God, it's crazy.
Yeah. So Daddy Bear was the nickname that people gave to him. So Daddy Bear, Papa Bear.
Right.
The way we met is a very long, drawn-out story with twists and turns. But in essence, what happened was, I went to an LGBTQ event called International Mr. Leather in Chicago on my birthday, no less. And I knew he was going to be there, and I was hoping to bump into him. And I was at a party called the San Francisco Party. It's organized by the people that run Folsom Fair. And the friend I was with went off to use the restroom, and when he came back, he said, "Oh, I have a surprise for you." And he stepped aside, and Daddy Bear was behind him.
Oh, wow.
And our eyes locked, and that was it. If you had asked me in the morning, "Do you believe in love at first sight?" I would have said, "No, no, it's something that kids talk about." But then I locked eyes with him, and that was the end of the story. I was hooked. Yeah.
Oh my God, amazing.
So that's how we met. And the thing about him is that he was my first teacher in being authentic. He was 5'5", 230 pounds, muscular. He had a beard down to his navel. He had a ring in his nose like I do. And he wore a mohawk, or what I called an interrupted mohawk, because he actually had a bald spot on the crown of his head. So there's a piece in the front, a piece in the back. And he only ever wore kilts. He never wore pants. He was a nudist, and being in a kilt was the closest thing to being naked. Plus, when you're 5'5" and 230 pounds, it's hard to find pants. So he was always in a kilt. And when he walked down the street, people's heads turned. He was somebody that you notice. And yet he seemed to not relish the attention, but certainly know how to deal with it. And he was an incredibly kind, incredibly warm person. And when he passed, everyone said to me, you know, even when I only just met him, he had this powerful effect on me.
Wow. And he was from Canada as well, from Toronto?
No. He was from the US. He grew up in Mississippi.
Okay.
And so I had a really pronounced Southern accent. And at the time that we were together, he was living in San Francisco.
Wow. And what was the biggest difference between both of you?
Just that we came from such different places. He came from the South and was from a small city, so he had grown up a rather strict form of Christianity was how he was raised. A lot of very conservative ideas around him, and he had left that environment on purpose, gone to a place where things were different, and had changed his perspective on life and changed how he presented himself in the world.
Okay. Next question, Papa Bear. Let's do it. Before the next one, tell me about your experience in Brazil. Where were you in different states or just in one place? Walk me through a little bit about your experience.
Mostly in one place, because it was an exchange. This is the thing. People, when I speak Portuguese to people, I think I have a relatively neutral accent, but every once in a while I'll say something and other Brazilians will look at me and go, "Where in Brazil were you?" I was in the Northeast. I was in the interior of Alagoas.
Okay.
Yeah, so not a place that many foreigners visit. We were there to do community development work in a very small town, about 45 minutes outside of Arapiraca, if that means anything to the people that are listening to you. About 3 hours from Maceió, which is the state capital. In the program, I was paired with a young man my age. He was from Recife, so I got to go to Pernambuco. Also spent a little bit of time as we were leaving and about to fly home in Rio.
Okay.
So that was my experience of Brazil.
It's interesting because when you got connected and you sent all those messages in Portuguese, I thought you were a Brazilian person because it was so well written, and I was like, wow. I mean, I replied in Portuguese. You remember? So I thought, it's Brazilian for sure. That's interesting. And how long were you there for?
I was there in 88, 89. It was a sort of an exchange where a group of young Canadians were sort of representative of the country, men, women from different parts, Anglophone, Francophone. And then we were paired up with a group of Brazilians who kind of matched us in that same way. And for half the time we were in a small community in Canada, and for half the time we were in a small community in Brazil doing community development work. And it was an absolutely life-changing experience. I mean, the part of Brazil that we were in, I haven't been back to Brazil in a very long time, but at the time, the Northeast is very underdeveloped.
Yeah.
Many diseases are rampant. Infant mortality rates are very high. It was very much living in a third world country. And so as a sheltered, white, middle-class Canadian, it was a shock. I saw many things, learned many things that I don't think I ordinarily would have come into contact with. And plus it was Brazil, where people are, William, absolutely incredible. In another interview, I heard you talking about getting used to the differences between being in Brazil and, say, being in the UK. And I can relate to that. I mean, people in Brazil were absolutely magical. Yeah. And so really learn to appreciate that experience.
Oh, amazing. Next question is, how would you like to be remembered in life?
As somebody who did his best to put more understanding, kindness, and caring in the world.
What's the meaning of life for you, Papa Bear?
Oof. Unconditional love. Learning to show it to ourselves, probably first, and to show it to other people as well.
Do you believe in destiny?
I believe that there are certain things that we agree to with one another before we come into this world. How they play out is kind of up to us, but I think we set the stage and say, you know what, I really want to learn about X. Would you help me do that? Would you play this role? And I think we act those things out for one another so that we can learn and grow.
Amazing. 3 questions left. Let's do it. You like dancing?
I do. I wish I could hear your music. Yeah, in particular, Brazilian music really left a strong imprint on me.
Next question is, what makes you very sentimental?
People and places. I have very powerful memories of being in different parts of the world when I was living there, because there were really important lessons that I learned, and people have really done some amazing things for me. When Papa Bear died, or when Daddy Bear died rather, I had to fly to San Francisco, and I had one day to clear out his apartment. And there were people that I knew only as acquaintances that I knew to say hello to, who lined up and did things for me. Like, there was one man who showed up that morning with a hot breakfast for me. He had donuts for everybody else. And I was there in a state of shock. And he just walked in and took control of everything and said, right, clothes over there, shoes over there. You box this, you do that. The night before, there was a couple of friends, a lesbian couple that had been friends with him that, again, I knew to say hello to. And one of them showed up at the airport to pick me up. She had a hot meal. She had boxes and markers and duct tape and everything else that I would need to package up his things. And these people just stepped up for me in such a beautiful way to do things. And I was extremely appreciative. And I am conscious of looking for ways now to pay those things forward.
I think it's so amazing of the way people cross our paths and they are there for us. They're there. They were there for you, literally. Like, they literally were there. That's their presence. That's what's beautiful about people, and you're not expecting, or when they show up, you know what I mean? They literally show up. They're there for you, and I think that those moments, yes, it's gonna be there forever, as you get emotional about it, because it's so genuine, so beautiful, and it's people. They really can be really, really good people. You know what I mean? Their hearts can be just the best. Yeah,
and you never know what doors that will open. So you and I are talking today because one of the men in my circle did an interview with you. Yeah,
absolutely.
So that was Scruffy Lobo, aka Tony. And that's another man who's absolutely transformed my life. We have had a lot of moments together that are very powerful, sometimes positive, sometimes negative, but always an opportunity to grow. And so, for example, I do a lot of digital art and photography. And he was the person who first said to me, like, why are you not doing this? Come on. And he's the person who poses for me most often. So many of the in your interview with him, you talked about, oh, the superhero photos of him. Well, that's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
work.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So he was the first person that said, Papa Bear, why are you not doing this? Here, take this camera. Let me pose for you. I'll throw on whatever damn costume or silly outfit that you want me to wear. Just take the picture and do something with it.
Say hello from me, please, and tell him that's. Of course, when I saw your picture with him, that's when I thought like, oh my God, I'm gonna invite him. I'm gonna. So I asked him before, and he kind of put us in contact. So please,
Yeah.
from me, okay?
It all unfolded. I was in Dallas last week to see him, as
I
well as
see.
another man in my circle, and we had a day together, and he took that picture, and then you and I were in contact after that.
I literally just opened my Facebook and I saw both of you together, and I was like straight away, please, can I can I have him on my show? He was like, absolutely, let's put you in touch. Amazing.
Awesome.
Next question is, what was your worst foot in mouth moment?
It's not something I've talked about, but I am also a teacher. Okay. And there was a day when I was new to teaching, and a student had inadvertently, these are people who are writing in English as a second language, and the student had inadvertently said something that was very funny and had a sexual innuendo to it. And so I kind of went over it in class, not to make fun of the person, but to kind of, and not even directly point at the sexual innuendo, but to make a joke about it myself. And the person in question was very hurt. And I immediately regretted it. And it was a powerful lesson for me. I like to laugh, I like to have fun, but I realized that humor is a weapon, and that it's best used when it's not pointed at someone.
Good point. And sometimes you don't even realize come from a good place. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just a genuine thing that you didn't think about or didn't, understand.
Yeah, but I perfectly understand what you're saying. I do now think twice before I say something to say, okay, well, is this aimed at anyone in particular? No? Okay, go.
Totally. Yeah, I had experience as well that, again, you just don't think about it. And suddenly when you realize, and actually, I think it's a good point when you realize it, or when you get the message, you know what I mean? Not to commit again the same mistake or to, you know what I mean? So I think that's a good point. 2 questions left. Let's do it. Before the next one, Papa Bear, I'm going to ask you a question. Through your work, of course, you deal with a lot of emotions, traumas, you go deep in some topics and some experience and emotions that, it's not easy. You need to be prepared for those because you've been through that as well. My question for you is, how there's a way for you, a mechanism that you use to kind of, when you're going to have your session with people, to help them somehow to protect yourself, you know what I mean? Not to, let's say, to take this emotion to your personal life, or also to put yourself maybe in their experience that you've been before that was quite hard and difficult for you. There is a way for you to kind of disconnect somehow?
While you're asking the question, I had 2 quick thoughts. The first is, surprisingly, while the language that we speak is sadness because of what people have been through, I don't find the work depressing. I don't find it gets to me very much. And I think that's largely because I get to hear love stories all day long. Well, people wind up, grief is a part of love. We grieve hard because we love hard. And these people tell me the most beautiful stories about how they met their partner, how they got married, how they got their first home together. They're stunningly beautiful. And so that is the main. People say, isn't this sad and depressing the work you're doing? I know, it's gorgeous. The one time I did need, at the end of a session, to walk away and clear my head, it was also very beautiful, but very powerful. I had a client who had a terminal illness. And he initially came to me because he said to me, I think my partner would benefit from speaking to you. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, because he's about to become a widower. And I was like, oh, hang on. What about you? Do you need to talk to somebody? He said, well, honestly, I think I'm fine. But we spoke anyway. And in that session, I said to him, what was it like to receive your diagnosis and to know that your condition is terminal? And he said, I feel very grateful. I said, oh, that's not the answer I was expecting. Tell me why. And he said, we all have to go. And I could have gone in a heart attack. I could have gone in something that would take me out instantly. Instead, I have a year to get my life together,
Wow.
to say my goodbyes. He has adult children. He was able to sell properties and give each one of his children a trust fund. And he's able to take the time that he has left and enjoy it with his partner and to live in the moment. And that was an incredibly powerful thing to hear from somebody, that they had gratitude even in such a situation. And after we were done, I needed to get up and to walk around. I think I probably cried, not out of sadness, but just from the sheer power of the conversation we had had.
Wow. Next question for you is, what scares you the most about your future?
I think of myself as somebody still very much in the process of healing and growing. And to remain stagnant, I think, would be the worst thing that I could imagine, to be somehow stuck in a place or a time or a stage of development.
Aging for you, it's something that bothers you, or it's just a matter of life?
I won't lie, like anybody, I do kind of look at changes and think, well, that's not a lot of fun, is it? However, I'm 55. I am the most comfortable I've ever been in life. I'm the most healthy I've ever been in life. I'm in the best shape. I am able to do most, if not all, of the things in life that I would like to do. I'm surrounded by people, and I like who I get to be. And so aging hasn't been so bad.
Amazing. I think I see aging such a beautiful thing for us to be able to say, as you said, I'm 55. You know what I mean? Because I think it's such a great place to be when you embrace your age and embrace the time that you are living. I think that's how I see. I think age is a beautiful thing. I think it's a privilege.
It definitely is, my friend. The men who are just a little bit older than me in the gay community, most of them are not here. They passed away in the AIDS epidemic. And so sometimes people have said to me, oh, are you never tempted to dye your beard, like to get rid of the gray? And I said, no. Every single one of these gray hairs is a privilege that so many men that I knew never had. I
Wow,
have the privilege of growing old, and that is something that we can't say about the generation that was right ahead of me.
powerful. Last question, Papa Bear. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. Let's run. But before the last question, maybe someone watch this interview right now. Maybe it's facing, PTSD, trauma, or maybe it's facing something that, they are lost. They don't know how to deal with. What would be your very first piece of advice for those people? Maybe grieving something that they are not expecting, or not let's say, in a very difficult place right now.
The first thing that I would do is I would say, find someone who can be with you. The difference between tragedy and trauma is that when we look at something that's happened, when do people become traumatized by it? It's when they don't have a circle of people around them that make them feel safe. And so to limit the impact of what's happened to you, to what extent can you be with people? They don't need to say anything in particular. They don't need to do anything in particular. They just need to be with you. Many cultures, for example, in Jewish culture, there's this thing called sitting Shiva. Shiva is the word for 7. So for 7 days after somebody dies, people come over to your home. They bring food, but they literally just sit with you so that you're not alone. And that, I think, is the main thing. We need to know that we're connected in a meaningful way to other people.
Beautiful. Last question is, if you could make up a new school subject, what that would be?
I think I might call it Authenticity 101. Just helping people to see that some of the ideas that are running around in their head, I mean, I work with people a lot who have an inner saboteur, and it's this critical voice that says you're no good, you're nothing, you're never going to succeed. It is the voice of a parent or a guardian or a teacher who shirked their responsibility, who abdicated their responsibility and was not nurturing and kind and caring with this person. And the voice of their inner saboteur is the voice of a liar. You can. And so the journey towards authenticity begins with learning to recognize the voice of the inner saboteur and to realize that it is lying to you.
Wow. Did you like school growing up?
It was all right. I was good at school, and so it was one place in an otherwise traumatic upbringing where there was some positive feedback. Yeah.
Okay. It's not the end yet. Let's play now the word association game. I'm going to give
sure.
away some words, just the one that comes to your minds. Let's start with sex.
Fun.
Money.
Freedom.
Fear.
Paralysis.
I like this word. Wow. Family.
Chosen.
Life.
Joy.
Love.
Also joy.
Religion.
Spirituality.
Friendship.
Connection.
Politics.
Insight.
Desire.
Power.
Regret.
Oh, sadness.
Success.
Upliftment.
Wish.
Desire.
Happiness.
Peace.
One word for Toronto.
Diverse.
One word for Canada.
Gentle.
And the last one now, Papa Bear, one word.
Wow. A traveler.
Amazing. Actually, one word for life coach.
A listener.
And one more. If you could define your YouTube channel in one word, what that would be?
The word that comes to mind is authenticity. We're trying to discover what that is for people so that they can live it for themselves.
Amazing. Okay, so let's pretend now I'm going to get together with your partners. Yeah, I'm going to get all of them with me, and I'm going to ask them. All of you need to agree in one word, in a positive word for Papa Bear and one negative word for him. What they would, all of them, they would agree on.
I think they would probably agree on the word kindness. That's something that has come up. There are also moments in which I have been intense, and I'm learning to throttle that down.
What's your star sign astrology?
Oh, I think of Gemini.
Gemini. Okay. I thought to say Scorpio because Scorpio, they are very intense. I'm Scorpio. You know, you're very intense. And that's one of the characteristics of me, Scorpio.
Then it's everyone in Brazil, a Scorpio. You're all born in the same month.
I love that. I love that. Actually, I'm going to tell you a joke in Brazil. You know the time of the year that the maternities in Brazil, they are full of pregnant ladies ready to give birth. Do you know which month?
9 months after Carnival.
Yes, November. So yeah,
I can see it.
Which makes sense actually. So yes, I was conceived in Carnival, I believe. Let's play now, Papa Bear in the magic box, and you can ask me a question. But before you asking the question, one word for Brazil.
Warmth. In many senses of the word. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite Portuguese word?
Sotaque.
Sotaque. I love
Sotaque.
it. I love it.
Because, I mean, that has been my exploration of Portuguese, was having a very regional accent initially, learning to neutralize it. When I came back to Canada, I started working with people from Portugal, and initially I didn't understand a word they said. Although I got better at it. People from the Azores, there's a big Azorean community in Toronto, so that too was eye-opening. And more recently, getting to know people from Angola and Mozambique. And yet again, sort of seeing the diverse ways in which Portuguese is used as a language.
I lived in Portugal for 5 years before moving to England.
And I saw that, yeah.
When I arrived in Portugal, I couldn't believe you're speaking Portuguese. I was like, no, it's not possible, because of course Portuguese people, they are very confident with our culture back in Brazil, because they have at least 4
telenovelas. I've often been told
daily in Portugal.
I've often been told, você fala como aquelas pessoas na telenovela. You talk like the people in the soap opera.
That's true. Like they got used to the way we speak. Even different parts of Brazil, even different accents, they understand very well. To be honest to you, I left Brazil when I was 19 years old. The only thing I knew about Portugal was about the history, about the colonization, everything. But I never heard a Portuguese person talk in my life until I got there. I was in Porto, which the accent is very strong, the sotaque. And I was like, I was walking around the street. I couldn't believe that I was listening to Portuguese, because it was so different and difficult. Papa Bear, you can ask me a question now.
Yeah. You are a person, my friend, who has straddled different countries, languages, and realities. What is one thing that you appreciate having that experience of being bicultural, bilingual?
Wow, beautiful question, beautiful question. Do you know what I appreciate a lot, and I'm grateful for that experience, and I'm going to go back to Portugal again. Back in Brazil, growing up in Brazil, we have this America dream. Everyone, not just Brazil, but South America, we have this dream to go to the USA, yeah? And including myself, when I started studying English when I was 12 years old, and I started this dream to live in the USA, to New York City. That was my dream at the time. Long story short, life, brought me to Portugal, and suddenly London, you know what I mean? And I'm so grateful for life. Life sometimes takes a direction that you're not expecting. And I'm so grateful for that, because first of all, I never thought in my life I would live in Portugal. And I'm so grateful to have the opportunity there, because I got to see, the language where I speak every day back in Brazil, how everything started, the way they live their lives. And for me, being Portugal was a gift. I'm so grateful for life for that. And London as well. I meant to be in London. London is a place that I never thought in my life, I never desired to live here in London, and life presented me to London, and I'm so grateful for that. And so back to your question, I think what I'm more, grateful is about those life experience that been presented to me that made me the person who I am today. And I'm so grateful for that, because sometimes you just need to, it's okay to make plans, okay to decide, but be open-minded for things that life is going to introduce to you, because those paths in life can be very, very beautiful, and it can take you to places that you're not expecting, and you find your place there. So that's what, for me, I'm so grateful for those experiences, to be able to live that, for sure.
That's wonderful. That's really beautiful. William, can I ask you, where in Brazil are you from?
Mato Grosso.
Ah, okay. So yeah, that would Mato Grosso to London. That would be a bit of a change.
I know. When you say about Alagoas, all the like in the top of Brazil, I was like, my God, so far away from me. I've been exploring like Fortaleza, Ceará. I've been a few places there, like backpacking with a friend. We went all the way there. However, when you start talking, I lived in Alagoas, I was like, oh my God, it's so far away from me.
It's a big place. I think many Americans and perhaps many British people too don't understand the size of Brazil, and not only in geography but also in terms of the population, right?
Totally. Every state you go within a different country, you know, the accent, the people, the way it's fascinating just to be in a country. You know, I love being Brazilian. I think it's amazing to, you know, to be able to say that, and living abroad, you know, the country. I think it's, you know, I'm very patriotic. I love say that I'm Brazilian. Papa Bear, did you enjoy the interview?
Absolutely, I did. You have great energy, William. You're a lot of fun to be with. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks as well for being so open and talk about your journey in life. Again, helping people, healing, it's all what life is about. It's about for us to be vulnerable, to be in a place where we can share our memories, share our experiences. And you never know who, you know, is watching this interview right now, and know, helping people. And I think what life is about, that just being vulnerable and being ourselves and helping people as well. Connect with people. I think that's great. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I would just want to appreciate you for your openness, your curiosity. I've watched a number of your interviews. You're a beautiful person, my friend, and I appreciate what you're doing in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you go, if you can share a positive message or anything that you live by.
Yeah, I have in front of me an excerpt from a poem by a Lebanese-American poet whose name is Khalil Gibran. The poem is called On Joy and Sorrow, and the line that stands out for me says, "The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain."
Wow, it's beautiful. Muito obrigado.
Foi um prazer para mim. Então, obrigado a você.
Thank you so much. Regards to your partners, and you keep to Tony, and we keep in touch. It was a pleasure. Okay, Papa Bear. Keep
With great pleasure. Thank you again, my friend.
Amazing. Thanks so much. Okay, take care.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye. You too.
Bye.
So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, to share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why you'd like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye bye, see you next time.